Hey folks, this is Keat TV's Neon Galactic. I'm James Falk. Thanks for watching. I recently had the honor and privilege to spend a day with one of the men who played a major role in what's now called the Nimitz UFO sighting off the coast of Catalina Island in 2004. The case has become famous and was one of the central episodes covered in the recent UAP Congressional hearing on Capitol Hill. Retired Senior Chief Kevin Day was one of the senior enlisted radar operators in the strike group at the time that the sighting occurred, and it was his recommendation to the ship's captain that led Captain David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, and Chad Underwood to launch and investigate the tic-tac shaped objects that were in the sky over and around their vessels. Underwood's flight was the one that captured the video we've all seen and marveled at since 2017. I'll let Kevin tell the whole story, but for Kevin Day, November 4th, 2004 was just the start of a major life change, an evolution that he put squarely at the feet of that experience. It certainly impacted his career, because after Kevin Day had taken to dry land and joined the Department of Defense, he couldn't let the experience go. In fact, because of a harrowing event in his first deployment on board the Vincennes some 20 years before, or 17 years before, he felt absolutely driven to keep picking away at this monumental safety of flight issue. In 1988, the USS Vincennes shot down Iran Air Flight 655, an Airbus A300. Standing near the captain as this event unfolded, Kevin Day had an experience that he believes is connected to his later witnessing of the tic-tac UFOs over the Pacific. It's a fascinating story from a fascinating man. Please enjoy.
This was my very last underway ever I was going to be in the Navy.
Okay.
I was a very senior trainer at that point. I was a top, it's hard to speak about because I'm pretty humble.
Yeah.
But I got to tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
I was the top trainer for the strike group for air defense on the enlisted side of the house. Now, I'm not talking about officers.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
That's a different kind of category of brave men and women, believe me.
Yeah, and your job basically was to take in all the information coming from the systems and figure out this suggestion or recommendation according to the scenario and advise the officers,
yeah,
right?
My product, if you will, was simply a recommendation based on tactical information and the picture that I had somehow gained in my brain, and whether they accepted it or not was up to them. You know, that was it was my recommendation. And everyone on the air defense side, we had another person on the surface side, and the submarine side of the house that did the same type of role I was doing. Yeah. But exactly what you said, my job, and in this case, I wasn't the person actually, and I can't say that the person's name because it hasn't come out.
Yeah,
I will never do that.
I respect that, yeah.
Yeah, I would die first, just so you know. Okay. And I was in a training position. It was my last time underway, and all the training was done. This was the final exercise, and they were getting a grade now.
Okay.
I was suddenly in a grading position. So at the time, I was wearing the headset, and I was walking between all the operators in combat because I was taking notes. Yeah. And everything. We're getting ready to do an air defense
Now, when you
exercise.
say you're giving a grade, are you giving a grade to your operators, or are you being graded?
The whole strike group
is being graded.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. All
right. On the air defense side. Okay. Now, someone else was doing the surface subsurface stuff. Yeah. Although we worked together. So that's kind of the context of what happened. Out of the blue, I went up to Combat Information Center, CIC, on the aircraft is called Combat Direction Center, CDC. Now those names may have changed. I've been a while since I've been on board ships, so if it's different now, you know that's why. Yeah. And just a regular day at sea off SoCal in the operating area, in the exclusive operating area. There's notices to airmen that come out, hey, we're doing training and do not enter this airspace, please. If you do, be advised you might get escorted out, that type of stuff, right? Okay. It's kind of hard to prevent them, you know? Yeah. Anyway, we're off the coast, and I walk up in the combat. Actually, I was already up in there, and because we were getting ready to do an air defense exercise. And the whole strike group had been tracking these weird objects. And when I say weird, I had never seen anything like this. They were coming out of outer space. I know some of this is going to be hard to believe. I was never a UFO guy, quite the opposite. I was a straight stick radar operator. Yeah. Never had seen anything like this. Okay. Which, the thing that stopped me, I was like, what in the, fill in the blank with your own cuss are those? And at first, the ballistic missile defense team was tracking them from low Earth orbit, 80,000 feet, if you will. And that's low Earth orbit, by the way. And groups of 5 to 10, they dropped straight down in less than a second. Wow. Off the east coast of Catalina Island, and to 20,000, between 20 and 20,000, 28,000 feet.
So they were dropping from 80 to 20, basically.
Yeah, in seconds.
Yeah.
Pap, pap, there they were. And the reason why I know it's the same context is because our system, we very rarely look at raw radar anymore. We can, but we choose not to because the system generates tracks. And by looking at a track, I can tell who's who based on the shape of the track, essentially, what it looks like. Symbology. We call it symbology. And those track numbers didn't change the whole time, you know, in the whole strike group. Because remember, we have more than one spy. There's triangulated spy picture going on here. This ain't us, right? Plus the carriers throwing in their piece with their 48 radar system. Right?
Yeah, so all those things are collated,
oh,
basically.
You betcha.
So you're generating basically a whole picture of the operating sphere that you're in.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's kind of the context. I walk up or I was already in there because we were getting ready to do because I was in and out a lot in the training capacity. And at first we weren't worried about these things necessarily. Although we had looked and everything published about a test or something going on, we reported it back to the beach and we kind of just tracked and reported because I wasn't concerned from an air defense point of view, if you will. First of all, we didn't have the weapons on board anyway. It's a training environment, right? Which we don't bring weapons in training for obvious reasons, right?
So when you gave that information to the beach, did they give anything back to you?
They said continue to track and report.
Okay.
You know, and essentially.
Yeah.
Some of that happened above my knowledge, and above my pay grade, if you will. Okay. I'm talking captains and admirals and stuff, right? So during the night on the 3rd, November 3rd, because the tic-tac happened on the 4th.
Yeah.
The air wing flew on board the carrier. Because in the morning we were going to do or maybe it was the night before, we were going to do an air defense exercise. And basically what that is the training where if this is the aircraft carrier and over here is the notional bad guy, if you will, we set up points in the sky, bam, 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 all around us to protect us. We have pre-positioned flights in those spots. If someone comes at us, we're ready to get them, right?
Yeah.
And every flight that launches has their own pre-assigned spot in the sky.
Yeah.
Called
so the cap point?
Cap points, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Combat Air Patrol Station, if you will, yeah. And again, it might be called something different now. I'm using old terminology, which might be the case.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it changes like anything.
Absolutely, it evolves, yeah.
With the technology and stuff that's happening, right? And this is the weird thing. So Captain Smith comes down to the combat and I said, hey, sir, as you know, this is my recommendation and no one knows what these things are. And if, as an air controller, if I happen to run into one of these things, someone's going to ask you, sir, and me, why we were so damn curious. And he looks at me like, you're right, Senior Chief, intercept and VID. The whole air side's like, yes!
Now, so that means intercept and get a visual ID.
Get a visual ID. Go look at them, essentially, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what happened. We Fast Eagle flight was the first to launch. Captain Fravor, one of the best damn Navy pilots the Navy ever generated, by the way.
Okay.
He has all my respect.
Yeah, yeah.
In every sense of the word.
Okay.
Boy, howdy. I don't even think he knows how proud I am of him.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll see this.
Anyway.
So how was any information communicated to you after that occurred? Did you get to hear from the pilots or was there scuttlebutt on board ship? What happened after that for you?
Well, I think it's best to kind of go through what happened.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So we took control of the flight and we canceled training and said we have real world tasking, and he's like, they're already like, oh, this ain't supposed to be happening, you know. So we take control. I vectored them, and again, I'm standing behind the actual controller. So if the comms ever do come out, it ain't me talking, just so you know. But I'm behind them, grading them.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guys worked for me for years now already.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You're the supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Air Intercept Control Supervisor.
Okay.
Yeah. NEC 0319.
Yeah.
Okay.
How real quick?
Top Gun grad.
Yeah.
You know, the whole 9 yards. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so I just wanted to ask you real quick, how weird is it to be jumping out of training to go to we have real world tasks?
It never happens.
Never happens. So in all your time in the military, this is the only time it had ever happened?
Ever.
Okay.
Now, not to say it doesn't. It hasn't happened in the past to someone else, but I'm talking about me.
Yeah, yeah.
It never happened to me.
Okay, so it was a rare experience.
Oh yeah.
And so it required there to be some issue or potential risk that needed to be addressed.
An emergent real world issue.
Okay.
And of course, Commander Fravor knew that because it probably never happened to him either. By the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, we take control, and thank God it was him behind in the cockpit, right? And so anyway, we as soon as we get to the merge plot position, which is if you're looking at a radar display, suddenly these two track symbols are on top of each other, maybe separated in altitude by a little bit, at the same Latin log, right?
Yeah, so it would be the plane and the tic-tac, basically.
Yeah.
They were at the merge plot, so they were on the same spot on the radar.
Yeah. Okay. As soon as he got there, that object, whatever it was, dropped from 20,000 feet. I initially said 28,000, but I don't think my memory was clear. I think it was actually 20,000.
Okay.
But 0.78 seconds. Down to the surface of the Watcher, 50 feet above it. Same track number.
Yeah.
And it was definitely because it was visual now. They saw it, so he's like, "Oh shit!" So he leaves his brand new wingman up high, Alex Dietrich, I think. Yeah. And not any disrespect, because I do know who it is. And he goes chasing it. This is the type of guy he was, right? No one could have stopped him otherwise, right? So he was on it, believe me. And he gets down with it, co-located, and this thing recognizes him. Not personally, but it's aware, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we hear on the radio, and you got to remember who this is, a very, very senior pilot, right?
Yeah.
And for him to be this concerned is a shit your pants moment, trust me.
Yeah.
He's on the radio, we're all listening, oh my God, I'm engaged. Just like that. We're like, what in the hell? And all of a sudden this thing, bap, right in front of him, disappears. Just like that. And guess where it went? Remember how I was describing how everyone's assigned their own cap station? It went to their assigned cap station. Not only close, it wasn't close, it was precisely on it.
Yeah.
Latitude, longitude, and altitude.
And how far away was this?
60 miles north.
So suddenly this thing decides that it needs to go, and it leaves, but it goes to the place where Commander Fravor is supposed to go next.
Because we were getting ready to populate all the cap stations. He was the first one to launch, going to their assigned cap station.
Yeah.
Got interrupted in training, intercepted this object, which then went to their cap station. So you can imagine
that is alarming. And
I mean,
all kinds of things.
It's a moment where the hair on your arm stands up.
Yeah.
Especially for very senior operators and pilots.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an epiphany right there, a world changer, if you will, right?
Yeah.
It blows your mind up when it happens to you.
Yeah.
Because up until that moment, I was the least likely guy on the planet to believe in UFOs. I was never a UFO guy. I mean, I used to listen to Art Bell. I had a fascination with it.
Yeah.
But I was a radar operator, and I was always had an open mind like you do. And I was waiting for the day when I would see something on radar.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Except for my last time underway.
Yeah, which is itself sort of serendipitous, right?
Especially when I was on board the Vincennes, July 3rd, 1988, standing this close to Captain Rogers when he turned the key to shoot down an Airbus. My first deployment.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about air defense.
So bookends.
It was the bookends of my career.
Yeah. And that entails a story of its own in terms of premonition that you had.
It's part of the story, believe me. It's all interwoven. And
do you want to go into that now?
Sure. We'll just kind of cut to the quick why it's kind of related.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Because you see right there over your left shoulder, that's called MADAR.
Yeah.
And it's my job now. It's a volunteer. And out of the blue, I was contacted by Fran Ridge. And I knew who it was, but I never actually knew much about the project until I was called. It's called MADAR. And basically, it's an effort to put those little black boxes all over the world. And what it is, it sits there, it doesn't radiate. It sits there and monitors the Earth's magnetosphere, local. Right, the magnetosphere right around us. And there's all kinds of magnetic stuff going. You got microwave transmissions, power lines, cell phones, you name it, TV station, especially AM radio. And that little box there is able to filter it all out with the exception of an actual UAP.
And it'll alert you.
It'll alert me on that speaker right there, and it gives me a blue light.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is 3:11 a.m. I hear that siren go off. Guess what I do? I grab my camera. Binoculars set right by the door. My camera's right by the door. I run outside and I get a picture.
Yeah. If that goes off, how much time do you have?
I'm out there ninja quick.
Okay, but is there a, do you have?
You got to remember these are UAP, so they could be gone like
that's
that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're going to be.
So this is something you have to act on right away.
Yeah, it could be hovering. It could.
And believe me, they picked the right guy for that.
Yeah.
Because I've been training for it for many years.
To be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, when this happened, my wife and I had been in the habit already of doing exactly that for some reason, because we love watching, sitting on the porch like your wife Amy, watching clouds and birds. And I'll be in the house working. She said, "Kevin, hurry up! You got to see this cloud." And I drop whatever I'm on because the clouds don't stay, right? I got to go look.
Yeah.
She does the same thing. "Hey, you got to see this cloud, sweetheart," and she'll drop whatever she's doing. So when this happened, it was kind of that effect. I kind of got sidetracked a little bit, but because I was talking about Madar. Okay, let me get back on track here.
Well, no, we were talking about the 1988 event
and
how that tied in the bookends of your career.
Thank you. So anyway, July 3rd, 1988, Vincennes, USS Vincennes. There's a town in Indiana it was named after, Vincennes, Indiana, and the name of our ship, it was called the Checkmate Cruiser. All right. So that poem you read earlier, Captain Rogers in Command, this poem that I wrote woke me out of a dead sleep 2 nights after it happened, fully written in my head. So I got up and I wrote it down. I did it maybe 1 or 2 typo changes. Even then I was a message writer and I would route messages up to the captain for a release. And I took it with me and he started crying. He read it on the 1MC.
So you read it on the overhead radio? Oh, wow.
And everyone on board cried. Because we felt guilty, man.
Yeah.
Can you imagine shooting down a fucking Airbus? Come on.
Yeah, that's what, I mean, I don't know if we made that clear. Basically, there was a...
Well, since we went there, let me tell you what happened.
Well, so the audience can understand.
Yeah.
I understand because you told me earlier.
It was my first deployment, USS Vincennes, and one of the first spy ships on the West Coast, and it turns out I had done really well in my school. I was an honor graduate. I graduated #1 out of 90 students, and because of that, I got to pick orders. Otherwise, you get assigned them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why I did it, because I wanted to have a choice in where I was going to go, right? So I chose the Vincennes and got there as a boot camp dude, right? Didn't know much of anything. Went on deployment in the Persian Gulf, and just because Iran and Iraq war was going on, right? So we were concerned about commerce, protecting the shipping lanes, that kind of thing. We weren't otherwise involved in the war. So July 3rd, 1980, the next day was July 4th. And we were kind of tense anyway because of the, around holidays and stuff, the Navy's kind of on alert anyway a little bit. But not in a bad way. Don't misunderstand me on that.
Yeah, no,
it's more of a personal thing, I think.
Sure.
But anyway, the long story short, out of the blue, our ship was surrounded by Iranian bog hammers, and they opened fire on us.
Okay. No, when you say an Iranian bog hammer,
it's a fast patrol boat.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and
it's like how you when you see video of like Iranian groups coming up to attack a ship, they usually speed up.
They're real fast boats. Yeah,
okay, cool.
They've got small arms on board. And
exactly.
Expert riflemen and that kind of thing, right?
And if sometimes explosives and stuff. Too.
Yeah, especially nowadays, right? Yeah. So anyway, we came under. We went to general quarters. You got to remember, I'm a boot camp guy, and my normal watch position underway was navigation. But my position was called JOTS at the time, right? And it's called something else now. And that position, I was doing navigation. Normally, there's boring. I had to update the position of the ship every 5 minutes. So I had a lot of free time to just stand there and watch the large screen displays, right?
Okay.
And that track that had launched out of Bandar Abbas that we ended up shooting down, I had noticed, I said, wait a minute, Kev, haven't you been seeing that flight like every morning? It's a commercial airliner going to Dubai. But I was thinking to myself, I'm not on comm, so I don't know what's being said. And all these people in front of me, the officers, the captain, and all those people, they're on watch with me every morning. They had to have seen these things too. And so I was like, I better not say nothing. And so I chose to be quiet. And I just had this thing screaming at me, Kevin, you got to say something. You know what it is. But I didn't have no authority to speak. And if I had out of turn, I could have gotten killed, or not killed, but I could have gotten us killed actually, because the Stark got killed that way.
Yeah. And you don't know what this thing is.
No.
So if you tell them not to shoot, and it is something, then you're responsible for the ship going down.
And we have seconds to decide.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I can't...
Now, when you say that there was something screaming at you, that you're talking about inside your own head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My intuition, if you will.
Exactly right, yeah.
Which was really strong with me for some reason. One of the reasons why I did well in the Navy is because I have a very weird sense of timing. Anyway, that happened, and right in that moment, I was just about ready to... I was holding myself back, literally. I was holding on to the console behind me, right? Because I wanted to say something. And all of a sudden, Captain Smith yells up, gets up in combat, "Make goddamn sure they ain't a comm-air!" Just like that. And thank God, they know, right? It was, I relaxed. Oh, thank God, you know?
Yeah.
They know something I don't.
Yeah.
And I was literally this close when he stood up and turned the key.
How long was it between make sure it's not a comm-air and the firing?
If I had to guess, maybe 47 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, within a minute. Because they were double checking everything.
Yeah.
And there could have been a F-14 actually behind the comm-air because they were getting some mixed signals and stuff like that. They had the reasons, put it that way.
Oh, I'm sure.
That I'm not, still to this day not privy to.
Well, and it's like those things are such a complicated picture.
Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to hear that a civilian airliner got shot down, and that's terrible. But then at the same time, these are complicated decisions taking place during war, and so to sit as a Monday morning quarterback, I mean, we don't have the information. We're not making those decisions. It's an impossibility.
That's a good way to put it. Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, and that's never going to work in a situation like that because our lives aren't at risk. We're not trying to protect it, you know. Anyway.
The good news is, because I did keep my mouth shut, not only didn't our ship get blown up, potentially, right? Which it was a real possibility, trust me.
Yeah. July
3rd, you know, next day is July 4th. But I think it was about 3 days later, Iran and Iraq signed a peace accord.
Yeah.
Think about that. That one decision may have changed that war just by me keeping my freaking mouth shut.
Yeah.
The butterfly effect.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yep.
You never know in a situation like that, a decision like that.
So anyway, my current boss, Fran Ridge, really well-known guy if you're into this at all. I just had this weird... I wanted him to know some more about what motivated me and why I was so... And my answer is children. That's simple.
Yeah.
Anyway... we killed a lot of kids. Everything I do is to honor them.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing this with us.
It's true.
Imagine how hard it is.
So I wanted Fran to understand where I was coming from a little bit. So I emailed him my poem. And I think he either called me or emailed me back. He called me, I think, because it was a blur now. But anyway, he said, I hope you're sitting down when you see this, but I was born in Vincennes.
And this event happened where Fravor saw them and chased them, and then Chad Underwood managed to get some video of it. Did you ever see that video once it came back?
I did. The next morning, I went up. I was going to write an after-action report, which is my normal function when something like this happens. I'll go up and I'll go up to Computer Central. They'll bring it. I'll go on the computer, basically up in combat, not down in the computer room, but up in combat. And I'll draft the message, you know, basically that typical, just exactly what it sounds like, after action report, right?
You tell him what happened.
Write it up to the captain. He either releases it or doesn't, you know, his choice. And so I was up in there and I checked my secret email box, and the tic-tac video that's out was in my email inbox. That's the first time I ever saw it, where the little object, if you're looking at me, it goes off to the left, right? Yeah. And that video is what was playing when I walked out of the restaurant down at the Illinois Valley Golf Course with a plate of food, and I just opened the restaurant. I had forgotten all about this.
Yeah.
We were watching the golf tournament.
Yeah.
Like you do down at the golf course, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I looked, I said, wait, who
So that was 2017.
I saw this video that I hadn't seen in, almost 20 years?
Yeah, and that's the New York Times video that came out with the story.
Keene, yeah. Was it Leslie Keene?
Ralph Blumenthal and Helen Cooper.
Cooper, yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
And so that video comes, you're at the golf course.
Yeah.
You're coming around the corner with a plate of food.
Yeah.
You're volunteering there.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, this video that has played a formative part in your life, but you had no idea that this stuff was cooking like this, right?
No.
And then there it is.
Yep.
What did you think?
I
You dropped the plate of food.
Yeah,
right?
and it wasn't like today. It was glass and it broke.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was in a panic.
Yeah.
Because I knew my life was about to change, because in 2009, I'm pretty madly brilliant for some reason, but I'm also a dork at the same time. Sometimes I forget what day it is. Okay, I have that combination of complex.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. But anyway, I was at least smart enough to write a short story and not only publish it in the Library of Congress, and I wrote a bunch of other fictional short stories about being a sailor. Some of them are pretty risque, by the way. And it's called Sailor's Anthology. And not only did it help me do something positive, because I love to write, it was a positive way to channel how I was feeling, but also I had a plan. I said, okay, Kev, you're smart. What would you do? If you could go back in time, what would you do? I said, I know what I'd do. I'd hide evidence. And my little short story, The Seer, became evidence.
Yeah.
Unless I have a time machine.
Yeah. Because you published that story
in a fictional way, where I changed the date, all the names, but the core story, including the word tic-tac, which was important here.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Is in that story.
Yeah. And you published that in 2009, you said?
Yeah, February 2000. I got the library control number and everything on it.
Okay, so
it's in the preface of the book.
Okay, so that's a way for you to basically encode your experience from 2004.
Yeah, and provide evidence.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because
your verification that it actually happened.
It's irrefutable evidence.
Yes.
I never claim to know what they are, but I can tell you they did happen, and my book is proof, unless I have a time machine.
Yeah.
And that became one of the primary reasons. And again, I'm talking out of school a little bit, because some of the pieces aren't really connected yet.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have
your opinion. This is your opinion.
Yeah, some of this is my opinion. Please understand that.
Yeah.
Because this is important to remember. I can't predict the future, and there's things I don't know, okay? But what I believe happened was somebody made the decision, you know what, we're busted. His story's going to come out anyway. We have to admit these things are real, at the very least. Unless Kevin Day has a time machine.
Yeah.
One choice or the other.
Yeah.
Because the book exists. It's in the Library of Congress. And it can't get moved.
Yeah.
It's one of the rules of Congress. Once it's in the Congress, it has to stay there.
Yeah.
No one can take it.
Yep.
Even the top IG guy can't take it. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
As far as I know, that's what I was informed. I
could be wrong. That was a smart. What do you call it?
I was told. I got a phone call out of the blue. Kevin, I can't tell you who I am, but I will tell you two things. Publishing your book in the Library of Congress was smart. However, fictionalizing it too, that was brilliant. His exact words, and then he hung up the phone.
Right on, man.
Yep. It was a male too. It wasn't a female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So now you also had the experience of, this happened, and so tell me how you felt after it happened and the kind of reactions you got from folks when you wanted to talk about it. You got negative feedback from superiors, right? Or how did that unfold?
Yeah, you could say that. When the Fast Eagle flight, of course, its training was canceled at this point, and we didn't do the ADEX.
So you didn't go back to it after that?
No.
Okay.
At least not right away.
Okay.
They did it later after I was gone.
Because this is your last. Yeah.
At least I think they did. I'm pretty sure they did. Anyway, they come back, and immediately there's cartoons in the aircraft carrier newspaper about UFOs crashing in the sea. Okay,
already making fun of it.
Yeah, we got clowned pretty hard. Seriously. And at the time, I think I was the only one speaking out, because my whole job was air defense, and the safety of flight was my primary thing. Airbus. I didn't want one of our guys to get killed or break equipment. That kind of thing was my whole job.
So, and the reason why you felt that way is because of what happened back in the Iran-Iraq War.
Oh, hell yeah.
You had experience of how a mistake had happened and caused a lot of deaths. So
exactly.
You are highly vigilant about making sure that any risks are assessed and taken care of as soon as possible.
Yep.
And that led you to want to pursue this issue to make sure it could be cleared up.
So at lessons learned meetings, at post-training meetings, that type of stuff, I raised my hand. I said, hey, ladies and gentlemen, they'd be like, what's up, senior? We have a safety of flight issue off the SoCal coast. Like, tell us what happened. And as soon as I described what had happened, all anyone seemed to hear was UFO. Literally. And once again, I got weird looks, people snickering, cartoons being made. I got all the emails I can show you. I kept them all. It's all documented, by the way, for those listening that did this. And I have to caveat right now. If the shoe had been on someone else's foot, this guy here would probably have been doing the hardest laughing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But because it happened to me, I have the benefit of having the experience, and so I don't blame anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hold any grudges.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite, in fact.
But it was important to keep it anyway because it's a record of what you went through, right?
Well, I'm lazy deleting email.
Well, that has its benefits at times.
Yeah,
right?
as it turns out, it was a good thing, right? Yeah, I'm real bad about that. I have my weak areas, believe me.
Well, some weaknesses turn out to be strengths.
You ain't kidding. And sometimes.
So do you have emails from that period of time?
Oh yeah, you bet.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's.
Well, not Navy emails.
Okay, but
different system. I'm talking about Yahoo.
Okay,
yeah.
but so you still were getting emails on this subject.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Especially my post-Navy days, my DoD days, when.
So what were you doing at DoD?
I was a training analyst.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I was a civilian. I was doing basically the same job as a civilian. Now I was going out on ships and grading them.
Okay.
Yeah. Under Navy Department contracts and stuff.
Yeah. And you left there on bad terms, or would you call it?
No, it was amicable.
Okay.
I didn't make a big fuss. I just said, and I won't say names again. I don't have permission. I'll never do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I kept my cool as much as I could, and I just quietly quit and went home. And I was living in Phoenix at the time, right? I said, well, what the hell am I going to do, you know? So that's when I wrote the stories. I just sat down. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
And just in case the story ever does come public, guess what happens?
That's your ace in your sleeve. I mean, you have it.
Yep.
Now, so would you say that the stigma was the direct reason why you ultimately left the DoD, or?
Oh, definitely.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, how did that change your daily experience as a DoD worker? Was it like something that it began to be too much for you to bear in terms of the clowning, or?
I can just use an analogy. It's kind of like octopus. They're highly intelligent, but in the case there's a deaf, dumb, and blind octopus, and it thinks it's the only encephalopod in the ocean. That's kind of where we're at right now. We're deaf, dumb, and blind humans, and we don't realize there's other encephalopods in the universe, other life forms, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're deaf, dumb, and blind right now.
Yeah.
So being not deaf, dumb, and blind anymore, and still living in a world that is deaf, dumb, and blind, you get stigmata because people are deaf, dumb, and I'm not saying it in a bad way. Please don't misunderstand me.
No, I hear you.
I don't at all say that in a bad way.
Yeah.
Not even close, because I was one. You know, and to have to deal with that and try to turn it into something good at the same time without going crazy, it wasn't an easy journey.
Yeah, and you still felt motivated to bring it up at times.
Oh, you better believe it.
Okay, and that's where you were encountering resistance and ridicule. And
same thing I had in the Navy.
Okay.
People laughing at you.
Yeah.
Like, what in the hell's he been smoking? I was asked that by my boss point blank. I showed him my book I had published. He turns around in the car seat. What in the hell have you been smoking? That was my last day of employment.
Yeah.
Or a couple days later, I quit.
Wow.
Yep.
So I mean that experience of
no disrespect to him.
No, I understand.
Please
that.
don't.
I understand that.
He has all my respect.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say his name, but I won't.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the same time that you're going through that, you're also changing, right? Like you mentioned that something about this experience keyed off an evolution in your own consciousness.
Boy, howdy.
Can you describe that for me? Like what was, how did you change? When did you first start noticing it? What was the experience like, I guess?
It was an evolution, if you will, of consciousness, if you will. And some of this stuff I'm about to say is hard to accept. Even I don't fully accept some of this. Get my arm, like, why me, you know? I'm just a regular guy like you. I didn't ask for this in no way, shape, or form, you know? Some people do. That's not me.
Yeah.
I'd rather be playing golf right now.
No, there's people out there who make it up, and that's, it's just like there are people who want the attention.
Yeah.
But this derailed your life. I mean, it put you on a path, I think, that you enjoy where you're at now, but it doesn't sound like it was a comfortable journey to get there.
Not completely, no.
So what was it like? I mean, when did you first notice that something had changed, or did you have a moment where
when I started to care about people more than I used to, especially kids? Like, I'll give an example. Like, even now when I go into town and I see a homeless mother with a little baby, I don't know what to do. I want to help him.
Yeah.
But what do you do, Jim? Have you driven through Eugene and Portland recently?
No, it's been a year.
There's literally homeless encampments down the streets.
Yeah.
Literally. I didn't know it. My dad told me that recently.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yikes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. San Francisco in California is bad. Humboldt County, where I'm from, is also, I mean, not as bad, but it's bad, you know?
And it's complicated, and I was technically homeless at once, but I was already tired, had an income. I ended up in the wilderness.
Yeah, it sounded like, according to your story, you were more houseless by choice,
yeah.
Right? Like you wanted to live in the wilderness, you had money coming in.
Yeah, but because my interests had changed as part. This goes back to your question.
The change, right?
Yeah, it's part of the change. You suddenly have new interests out of the blue. Like suddenly you have this real strong urge to start playing piano out of the blue.
Yeah.
And it turns out you're a very gifted piano artist for some reason. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
I'm that way in geology now. I never studied geology, but I seem to have a natural talent for it. And it's undeniable because of my discoveries that I've made.
Yeah.
How in the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
My discoveries NASA's paying attention to them.
Yeah.
And I've told you what's led, and
that's overflights and
I can talk 2 hours about that alone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But to answer your question, that's part of the change process.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to tell people right now is, if you yourself encounter one of these things and things start to change in your life, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, because pay attention to it, And if you suddenly have the urge to start painting or play guitar or start singing out of the blue, then do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do it. Or if you have the urge to start helping people, volunteering everywhere, and caring about children for some reason and that kind of stuff, then do it. It's a gift.
Yeah. I remember seeing an interview with you where you were talking about there's a change coming. And that if people aren't prepared for it, it could be really bad. But if they are, hopefully they could help, channel that and direct it toward positive experience. Could you sort of talk about that for me? Like, what was the risk if someone is faced with this and they aren't prepared for it?
Divorce, alcoholism, methamphetamine abuse, death, abuse of children. You can name them as all as I can.
Yeah.
It's complex, and if you become a deaf, dumb, and blind octopus and don't get woken up, and no one around you understands which happened to me, I was ostracized, if you will, by even my close family members, because they literally thought I was going insane.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't? Here I was, one of the top trainers in DOD, the Navy at least, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, that's just the truth, right? And for me to end up in the wilderness looking for gold, what in the hell happened to Kevin,
But you found the gold.
I did.
That's a big part of the story.
In fact, I found so much gold, it's enough gold to pay off our national debt.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Because the mineral deposits that you've discovered right below your feet here in...
I wasn't a geologist or a miner or nothing, but because of clues my grandfather had given me, the mining claim called Bald Eagle down in Kalmiopsis Wilderness, in our family for over 100 years now. He gave me some clues that I was able to put together the pieces of the puzzle, and I was able, and this is all answers your question, how you get change, right?
Yeah, no, brilliant.
So I started thinking, he had told me, Kevin, you don't understand. I said, what, sir? He said, we weren't mining to kill my bench gravel nuggets here. We were finding little tiny pieces of gold that so small we lost more than we found. We couldn't capture it. He said, when you looked at it under your microscope, it looked like snowflakes. I'm no geologist, but I'm smart enough to figure out, okay, that's real soft, and if it traveled any distance at all, it's going to look like a little tiny ball bearing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to figure out that it had to be coming close to the surface. So one thing led to another, and it led to my epiphany, if you will, that our little mining claim is associated with a much larger piece of geology. Mm-hmm. And it extends from Northern California to northern Washington State. And essentially what it is, along the Pacific spreading arcs, is hydrothermal vents. Mm-hmm. And they're laying down mineral deposits. And it's such heavy ground, I got samples of it over here. And it's basically how I got this house, by the way. Because I was over here looking at the samples. The old man that lived here was a geologist.
Yeah, okay.
Amateur kind of guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And Robert Muskwick Sr. Mm-hmm. And I started doing research, and it turns out our mining claim is associated with something called the Josephine ophiolite. And basically, that ground is so heavy, it normally gets subducted under continental plates. Mm-hmm. But when it does get stuck on top of a continental plate, it's called an ophiolite.
Okay.
And in this case, it's probably 8 to 10 miles deep. It's huge.
So now, is that 8 to 10 miles deep from the surface?
From your feet.
Okay.
Yep. Straight down.
Is it below that, or is it all the way through?
It's layers, actually physically separated layers of minerals.
Okay.
One layer you've got titanium, next layer you've got iron, then gold, and you name it.
Wow.
Maybe everything on the periodic table. Because you got to remember the source is hydrothermal vents.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
so
the
it's
original,
coming from the mantle.
the original source of minerals.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So who knows what's down there, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much of an imagination to realize there's a lot of wealth down there.
Yeah. And
at the time, I was like, okay, there's no way I'm going to dig up that wilderness. But I published my research, and I left it alone for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And the Dear Moon mission came out. Elon Musk and MZ out of Japan, and just being the kind of people they are, they offered 8 civilians to go. And that's a mission, to go around the moon and come back home and hopefully land again, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully.
So anyway, I said, what the hell, I'm going to apply. So I did. And one of the requirements to be even considered was you have to explain why you want to go.
Yeah.
So I said, what the heck? They probably heard of me by now. So I sent my geology research. Mm-hmm. And this is why I want to go. And I was right out here in the yard 4 days later. And guess what happened? This big white jet started flying north, south, north, east, west, and I'm an air defense guy, and jets were my living, right?
Yeah.
And that ain't supposed to be happening here. I got the wilderness right here.
Yeah.
It's illegal, first of all.
Yeah.
And we got a Comair route that goes from Medford down to places south, right?
Yeah.
And that's the highway, if you will, for airplanes.
Yeah.
Certainly not around it, like all over the sky.
Not over the community, right? I mean.
So I run back in the house. I knew something was wrong. Something was up. I jump on the internet, and it turned out to be a NASA flight on a geodetic mission.
4 days after you submit your...
So we'll put the clues together here. All right, so that's what happened.
Yeah.
And the cool part of this story is the reason why, if your life gets to change, pay attention to it. Because here's the beautiful part of this whole thing. They were doing a geodetic mission to survey the ground. Mm-hmm. And underneath some of the water, I think, because they were suddenly interested in what I had reported. And because of that, they found the brand new hydrothermal vents right off the coast of Seattle. Ah. And oddly enough, I think it was 4 days after they announced that, we had that mini earthquake, remember, that happened? Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. But
here's the good news. Now that people are aware of that tsunami threat, which is, Chief Seattle was right. Mm-hmm. Seattle was a very bad place to build a city.
Yeah.
Because it does get inundated.
Sure.
Okay? And that's just a fact.
Periodically,
yeah,
again and again.
Not only is it in the geologic record, but it's a Native American tradition.
Yeah.
And now they found the cause.
Okay.
There's a previously unknown slip fault right there.
Wow.
And it's got hydrothermal vents, oddly enough. And because I paid attention to my changes, that was the result, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you tell me how weird that is.
That is bizarre.
To say the least.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for that. When it was happening, I didn't even know.
Yeah. So, I mean, contrary to what people might... Your advice for people who are having this experience and are experiencing changes is to find a way to roll with it, basically, right? To adapt and to evolve with it rather than try and resist it.
Yeah, be honest with it.
Yeah.
Say, you know what, I have a new interest now. and kind of approach, instead of trying to climb up and thinking, okay, everyone's going to think I'm weird if I suddenly start playing the piano out of the blue, and I'm a veterinarian, and where the hell did that come from? Yeah, and that's the sudden change that you can get, believe me.
Yeah.
Out of the blue, all of a sudden you have it even goes with talents.
Yeah.
And physical abilities. I didn't used to look, I look better naked now than I have in 25 years.
So now, how long do you think it took you to find a comfortable place to be? In terms of, this happened in 2004, you had the issues with the DOD and whatnot. At what point were you like, when did you find happiness, I guess? Or have you?
Long before this happened, actually, when I came home and started volunteering and kind of found myself again.
Yeah.
I definitely had moved on from all that.
Yeah.
And I was down volunteering at the golf course.
When the video
Yeah, that was a pretty happy time in my life, if you will. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I was still married to the ex, although she was down in Sacramento, because one of the things that happened to all this, I lost a 31-year marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and which were mostly good years, by the way.
Yeah.
It was only the end of it.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, and I won't tell you how it ended, but
yeah,
it wasn't fun, put it that way, yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the hearing that we had recently on this Wednesday. It was mind-blowing for me, who I've been spent the last 5 years, 6 years, I've been reading books and hoping for this to happen. I can't imagine what it was like for someone like yourself who experienced something like the Nimitz sightings and then had your career truncated because you wouldn't stop trying to address the issues that you saw in those moments. And now Commander Fravor, the guy who was deployed immediately to go after and find the tic-tac and did and chased it down, and David Grusch, who is obviously a whistleblower.
And Congress is doing the right thing first, by the way.
Yeah, well,
if I never get called as a witness, I'm perfectly happy not to travel anywhere.
Yeah, but the questions that they asked were of a level that we've never seen before. Like, they were informed and they were asking real questions about what's at stake, what's behind this, what kind of, I mean, everything that any basically ufology person would have written down for them to ask, they asked.
I know.
And it was stunning. It was beautiful. And so that's what I want to ask you. I mean, what was your reaction to seeing that? And how did that make you feel, given your years of experience in this topic?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yeah.
I cried.
Okay.
Down on my knees. Thanking God. I'm not religious, but I was thanking God.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to pick a religion, but I'm smart enough to know God. And believe me, I do.
Yeah.
Every day when I speak to God, it's like this.
Yeah.
It's really real, you know?
What good do you hope comes out of hearings like that? And I understand that you might yourself go back at some point and talk to authorities. You mentioned that might be a possibility.
It's definitely possible, yeah.
Okay.
So in my case, they might do it by Zoom. I don't know.
Okay, that's cool. Though, I mean, so if that happens, what do you hope to tell them that you'd like to see happen from this point? Okay.
3 things. Do not overreact. Don't make the same mistake that humanity has made so many times in the past by trying to profit from this thing. In other words, like the Great Pyramids, the Man King, I think, was trading technology for rocks.
Back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or there was a trade deal going on of some kind, right? And if we make the same mistake now, we try to, just one example, and this is a real world thing. Just now they're thinking about mining underneath the sea because of the new technologies. And who owns the sea? Okay, so that alone is potential for conflict.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to start fighting over mineral rights, if you will, right?
Yeah, all the international waters, that's going to be an issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to lose your train of thought when you're talking about this. What was your question?
Basically, you said 3 things, and the first 2 were great.
In other words, don't shoot these things down because there's good ones and there's bad ones. But the way I understand it is, even if your own blood brother was trying to kill you, you're going to defend yourself, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so they're like that. They tolerate us up to a point because they love us, okay? But just like you love your brother, if he's trying to kill you, you're going to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So number 1, do not overreact, i.e. don't try to shoot them. Number 2, don't try to profit, period.
Yeah, no.
And number 3, let's finally bury the axe on this for all of us.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shut the hell up.
What do you mean by bury the axe?
Let's end stigmata.
Okay, yeah, the stigma that experiencers face and the people that have a story to tell.
Make it okay to talk about. Like,
yes.
Mom's going to school and picking up the kids, and all of a sudden Sally from back, hey, look, Joey. It's one of those things we learned about in Mr. Smith's class. Mm-hmm. Well, and under their new generation, if it happens now, they go home and tell Daddy, ain't going to be no big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my goal.
Yeah, to make it...
Because the way it was when we were growing up, if that happened, people looked at the kids and the mom like they're crazy.
Yeah.
Stigmata, right? So that's what I'm talking about, bury the axe.
Yeah, no, I hear that. That's probably the best idea of the bunch, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, if we can make it something that we can collectively talk about and work through, then solutions will come. But if we're constantly ashamed to talk about it, or we're, stifling the conversation, we're never going to figure it out.
Madar.
Yeah, well, this is a good point to get to the Madar discussion.
A new app by Enigma Labs that just came out. It's the same type of idea with Madar, but this is like kind of a different. And I'm trying to marry the two together, just so you know.
Okay.
And it just came out, I think, last week, and it basically the same idea. Let's say you're driving to go to a grocery store, you have a visual report. It's a way for you to do something with that, where it gets put into a database, and over time trends can be spotted and stuff like that.
Yeah. Which
is worth finding the Madar, because let's say it's 3 a.m. in the morning and I'm waiting for. Have we described how this works yet?
The magnetosphere, yeah.
On as a part of the universe, or a part of the interview.
So okay, good. Yeah, we did that.
So,
you did that.
Okay, so let's say it's 3 a.m. and all of a sudden the speaker goes off. The whole idea is me to hurry up, ninja-like, because these things don't hang around long, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Grab my binoculars and my camera and run outside, get a picture, because that's never been done before.
Yeah, and then you'll have the correlated data.
Well, if it has been done before, it's classified.
Yeah.
But this is civilian.
Yeah,
a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
I'm totally accessible.
Yep.
I'm not some guy in an office where I say, can't talk to you, it's classified. Right? I'm totally approachable, right? So anyways, I'm trying to, a new software came out, if you will, an application for people that have visual reports. And the useful thing about Madar is, instead of getting woke up at 3:11 out of the blue, let's say there was a report made in Crescent City, and they were heading towards the northeast, it gives me kind of an early warning, if you will, to expect something.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Instead of getting a cold call, if you will.
So that's what that's where the marriage would come in. Is that right?
Yep.
So the Enigma app would be like, something happened in Crescent City or somewhere else nearby, and then this would be like, okay, when it's over your house, that's when you're going to hear it.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So there's a synergy there.
Yeah.
I think. So I can see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so last thing I really want to talk about as part of the interview this time, you had founded UAPX.
Yes.
And so where does that stand now? And what do you guys have in the work?
It's completely dissolved.
UAPX is?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Caroline Corey out of the, I owe her everything, by the way.
Yeah. And she was the producer of Tear in the Sky.
Tear in the Sky, yeah. With her own savings, her own money, because she believed in us, right?
Yeah.
She risked it all. I mean, think about it. For someone to do that, just in hopes we'll see something.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember, we had some of the top physicists on the planet on that rooftop with us.
Yeah. With
some of the gear made by David Mason, one of the top technologists on the Earth. So we had some pretty fancy gear on that roof, right?
Yeah,
if you've seen the movie, they showed up for us specifically.
Yeah.
And the weird thing about it is Dr. Zydalgus, and I had already been thinking about this. He walks up, he's like, I have a question for you, Kev. I said, what's up, sir? He said, do you think intention has anything to do with this phenomenon? And I looked at him like, well, as a matter of fact, I do.
Well, what do you think it does have to do with this phenomenon?
Well, it kind of goes back to the Big Bang, believe it or not.
Let's hear it.
Okay. And a simple question. We all kind of ascribe to the theory of the Big Bang, right? Who knows if it's actually true or not? I mean, it's our going in position, right?
Yeah.
And we all kind of accept it. But I have a question about it. If it's true, was the Big Bang intentional or was it unintentional?
That's a mystery question that we're all wrestle with all the time, right?
Right. Exactly right. So if you're honest, you have to assign it a 50-50 chance probability, right?
Yeah.
What else can we do?
Yeah.
okay, well, that means something. Either 50% chance is unintentional, or there is a 50% chance that it is intentional. Mm-hmm. And in the case that it is intentional, number one, what would an intended universe look like? And more importantly, did the intender that caused it choose to commit a cosmic suicide? Or did the intender that caused the Big Bang choose to survive it?
Yeah.
So right now we know about 4 fundamental laws of physics. You got gravity, strong nuclear, weak nuclear, and electromagnetism, right?
Yeah.
So we've all learned that in school. You can name them as well as anyone. Mm-hmm. I think there's a 5th one, at least. And I think the 5th, and I'm not a physicist. This is just Kevin Day's idea.
Sure.
But it's based on something, okay?
Yeah.
I think the 4th fundamental force of the universe is intention.
Yeah. Do you think the universe is conscious?
I think it's more powerful than conscious.
Okay.
I think there's an intention.
Gotcha.
It's a lot stronger thing.
It's going somewhere. It's got
there's a design where consciousness, you're kind of aware in the moment.
Yeah.
But if an intention has a intent, okay, that's a different thing.
Yeah. Instead of just being aware, it has a
plan,
a purpose. You know,
there's some sort of plan, right?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, that's what I think this phenomenon is based. I think these objects, whatever they are, they're actually real, and they're based on the physics of intention.
Wow. Kevin asked that I thank Gimmy's Grill in Cave Junction, Oregon, for hosting portions of our conversation. We had a delicious lunch there at a fair price, and I will be back if I visit Cave Junction again, which I probably will.